Today we have what I believe to be is Sycamore, perhaps London plain Sycamore. This comes to us from my good friend Arland Sanborn. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, as we like to say here at Shady Acres Wood Shop. Howdy, let's take a closer look at it. The piece is about 10.5 inches in diameter, about 4 inches thick. It's a crotch piece. I've just cut this into a rough circle. There was a big branch coming off right here. You can see where it raised up the top of the bowl, or piece of wood. But it's going to be a bowl, and this is going to be the top. You can see there in the center where I've punched a hole for my Forstner bit to make a flat spot for my chuck jaws, and then I'm going to drill a hole for my woodworm screw. We're going to get this mounted up on the lathe and get to turning. Before we get started, I wanted to say thanks to all the folks that expressed concern in the comments about the large storm that we had here. It was a big one. Maybe not the biggest ever, but it was big. I remember the one back in 61, was it? 61, 62, Columbus Day storm. Oh boy, that was a Lulu. Anyway, this one was quite big, did a lot of damage here on the property as far as big branches falling over and or dropping, and a few small trees falling over. Got a little bit of damage to the shop here. Shouldn't take more than a couple hours to fix. And they're saying more tomorrow, but not as bad. Those were 60-mile-an-hour winds. Just a little bit east of here, they had 76-mile-an-hour winds in Enumclaw, Washington. And there's a lot of folks in the area. I feel so fortunate. There's a lot of folks that are still out of power, like 300,000. We had over 500,000, including me. My power was only out for about 20 hours. I finally just gave up and went out in the motorhome and started the generator and sat out there for a day. So, and then of course I had to clean up my driveway, so that I'm behind a couple of days is what I'm trying to get at. So this is for, today is Thursday, and this is for next Thursday. Okay, got it mounted up. We can only turn at 400 RPM. It's pretty well centered, but this half right here is much thicker than this is over here. So it's out of balance. So only 400 RPM, 5/8 inch bowl gouge, mask and face shield on. Well, this is going to take a while, isn't it? Wow. Hardwood. I'm not real certain that it's Sycamore, but I still think so. I think I'm going to come down here and flatten off the bottom. It contributes to a lot of that bounce when I finish my cut on the side or on the corner. Alright, I gotta go sharpen up. Maybe I can pick the speed up a little now. Not much, about 430. Alright, that's pretty flat enough. I want to get back over here and make some progress. I forgot, I'm actually supposed to be coming from the top down to keep the bark on, so back to that. Okay, the bark looks okay. I'm gonna finish rounding it up just in an effort to try and get it more in balance. It's not gonna get it perfectly, but it might help some. So I can pick the speed up. There's 440. Must be getting pretty close. Yeah, okay, it's round. Try the speed. About 520. Okay, now we need to decide on a shape. And I don't know. I'm gonna go get some coffee. I found a crack up here near the top, so I filled that with CA, and I think it's ready to go. I'm gonna come back down here to the bottom and finish smoothing it out and lay out for a tenon or recess or something. Oh, kind of pretty, huh? Now I'm going to use this diamond point tool to square up the sides of the tenon. And that's good. Just no style to it. Still no style, but it's a bowl. I'm going to put a fresh burr on my scraper and we'll scrape. Okay, that's what we got. Time for sanding. I'm going to start the sanding with my Sando Flex. This is 180 grit, and that's as fine as I will go. I'm going to sand just the edge along here, along the bark on top, right around here. We'll be cutting most of it away, but I want to get this cleaned up, smoothed out. When I'm done with that, I'll switch to my 2-inch disc, starting at 80 grit and working up through 400. I'll have the lathe spinning in reverse for that at about 350. And I'll show you what all that looks like as soon as I get my mask on. I'll be doing more of that, but that's what it looks like. And that's what that looks like. I'll bring it back here in a bit and we'll put some kind of finish on there. See you in a bit. Well, I'm real anxious to see how this turns out now. It's kind of plain, but you know, there are some dark spots in the wood, dark grain. So I'm hoping this sanding sealer will bring them out like that. That helps quite a bit. I had a question about the rags I use. Are they small? It looks like I have a big rag. Well, I folded this one in half. It's usually twice that size. I go to Home Depot and I buy what they call a bag o' rags. And it's kind of a stretchy cotton material, lint-free. And I cut them up into probably, I don't know, 10-inch squares. And then I fold it down until it's probably 4 or 5 inches, 2 or 3 layers thick, something like that. This might come as a shock, although I've mentioned it before, but for any new viewers, I use that same rag over and over and over again. I would guess 3 or 4 months. When I'm done with it, when I'm done with the brush that I might use, and it looks like I will be, I put the brush in a Ziploc bag first, way at the bottom, and then I put my rag in, and then I zip it halfway closed, and then I squeeze all the air out, and then I zip it again, and I use the brush and the rag over and over. You know you're done with it when it won't take any more finish. When you put finish on there and it just sits on top, it won't soak in. That's when I know I'm done with it. And this one is nearing that stage. I hope that answers the question. I did answer the question online, but I'm not sure that I covered all of that. And I never clean a brush. I just put it in the bag, squeeze all the air out, use it again. When it finally wears out, I throw it away and grab another one. I buy those brushes like 50 at a time, and they last, well, I don't know if I've ever bought them a second time. And I've been doing this a while. And here's that brush. And I always put the finish on first before I grab the brush. It just seems to work better. I don't know that I could explain why. It just does. And then I immediately put more finish, or sanding sealer in this case, back on my rag and follow behind that brush and wipe up any runs or streaks or brush strokes or whatever. Wipe those away. So that's what we have. That's what it's going to look like. I'll bring it back here in a bit. Turn it around and we'll start working on the top side. See you in a bit. I neglected to say for the new viewers, I say this all the time and I just skipped over it because I was talking about my brushes and my rags and all that. But this is the first of 2 coats of sanding sealer that I will put on. And then I will apply 2 coats of shellac over this. And I buff in between with 3M abrasive pads. And I have a short video on that. If you just search my page for smooth, just search for that word, you'll find the video. It's less than 3 minutes long. It shows what I do in between coats. I used to show that all the time, but it's just too repetitive. Sorry, I forgot to mention that, but there you go. See you in a bit. I've turned the piece around and have the tenon mounted up in the chuck. I've got a beautiful finish on the outside. I hope we can do as well on the inside. We're going to be turning at 610 RPM. Freshly sharpened 5/8" bowl gouge, mask, and face shield on. I'm going to try and explain something here. As you might imagine, I get asked a lot of questions or suggestions on why don't I do this or why don't I do that. One common one, and one I got the other day, and I am not picking on anybody that posts a comment. I'm just not. I'm just not. But I try and explain it in my reply, but I'm not sure I'm getting it across. So maybe if I show it, I really should do a separate video on this. Boy, can you see my breath? It's cold in here. I'm constantly asked, why don't I leave a wider edge so that you can see all that bark and then undercut it? So the walls down here are thinner. I did a bowl 2 or 3 weeks ago that I did undercut. It wasn't this kind of bowl though. It wasn't a live edge, it wasn't a natural edge, it was just flat across the top. That you can do. But if you try and undercut when you have, this is the highest point here, this is a low point, this point is lower than that point is, and this point over here is lower than all of them. If I start to undercut, which means leave the bark and go towards the outside with my tool, go this way with my tool, leaving that bark and then thinning down this edge down here. If I point my pencil here and come around here, now I'm going down. Now you can see that over here, now I'm halfway through this edge. I'm halfway through it. This up here is still the same width because that's where I started. But going at that angle, now I'm halfway through it. Then I come up here, partially through. Maybe I'm over, in this case, I'm over about 3/16 of an inch. Then when I get down here, there's nothing left of that edge. It's gone. It's simply gone. So this one's half gone. That one's gone. And that's why you cannot undercut a bowl that's shaped like this. If it was flat across the top, not a problem. Easy peasy. You cannot do it this way. Half gone, quarter gone, gone. So I hope that explains it, because I do get asked that so often, so many times. Again, not picking on anybody, it's my failing in not explaining it properly. Okay, I was able to pick the speed up to 650, woo-wee. And I'm not gonna do that, I'm just gonna keep going down here. What I do have to do is go down steeper so that this thinner edge right here, and this is a little bit thicker, and this is the thickest, or this is the thickest over here, this is a little thicker than that one. I do have to go down straighter so that when I get to those low points, I still have an even thickness of an edge all the way around. So straighter down, but not that way. And I should have sharpened up before I started again. I'll be right back. That still might be just a little too thick, huh? It's a nice even thickness, but it might be too thick. Okay, yeah, that's better. I'm going to do a little shear scraping here to clean this up before I move down any further. Then I need to cut away the center so that I can get my tool rest in there. And I gotta go sharpen up again. about 3/8. And that's good. We're done. I don't need to scrape up here. I've done a pretty good job with my shear scraping, but I need to scrape this corner a little bit. I have the piece spinning in reverse at 330 RPM. I'm starting at 80 grit and working up through 400. I'll bring it back here in a bit and we'll put some sanding sealer on there. See you in a bit. Well, I don't know how good of a job I did inside here. I'm not so sure I did a great job. I think there's some tear out. Some woods just don't like to be scraped, and I should have known this was one of them. Well, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. This is sanding sealer again that I'm applying. Shellac based sanding sealer. And I'll put on 2 coats of this and 2 coats of shellac over it. Oh, it doesn't look awful bad. Okay, that's generally what it's going to look like. I'll bring it back in a bit and we will take the tenon off. See you in a bit. I've mounted a block of wood up in my chuck. I'm going to put a non-slip cloth over that and bring up the bowl and bring up the tailstock. I still have that center hole there for reference, so I can just drive my live center into that. Apply a little pressure, bring up the tool rest, spin the piece up, see if it's running true. It is. Turn the speed up to about 550 RPM. I'm going to grab a 3/8 inch bowl gouge and commence removing that tenon. Stop and check for clearance. And we have clearance. Oh, I'm supposed to say stop and check for clearance. And we have clearance. I want to adjust my tool rest a little bit closer, a little bit higher. And I don't know if you can see, I don't usually show this part, but can you see where the chuck jaws gripped it? Right here there's one, here there's one, here, and here. So I got to get in there real close and just trim those away. A little bit closer. I think I got him that time. I did. That's pretty small. I'm going to turn the speed down to about 400 RPM. Just keep working it away. And that's really small. So I'm going to switch to a swept back bowl gouge so that I can get in there closer. Now that's pretty tiny. I'm going to turn it down to about 200 RPM and I'm going to apply the bevel of the gouge against the bottom of the bowl. Pressure towards the headstock. Right hand on the gouge, left hand on the switch, and when the little nub stops turning, we'll know we're through. Now I'll just take this over here to the workbench, sand that up, sign it, get it finished, and I'll be right back. Be sure you stick around at the end of the video so you can see the before and after shots of this piece. If you'd share the video, I'd really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Well, here it is. One Sycamore live edge bowl in the books. And I see two things in here. Two. They're on the inside, not the outside. Here's the outside. That's where the branch came off, creating the crotch for this piece. And there's the bottom all finished up. There's the inside. Now what do you see anything? Do you see anything right down here? That looks like the tongue logo on that Rolling Stones album cover. So that's kind of cute. But cuter than that, when you look at it this way, that's Wile E. Coyote streaming across the desert. See him? Wile E. Coyote right here. And that's caused by the crotch in the inside of the bowl there. So I don't know what you think, but you can tell me right down there in the comments. See the tongue? See Wiley? Wiley's pretty cool. Cooler than the tongue. Just screeching across the desert he is. Well, I hope you like it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you, Arland Sanborn, for sending this along for all to enjoy. If you like this video, thumbs up please. I'd sure appreciate it. I also appreciate that you took some of your time to spend with me today. That means so much to me. Thank you. I'm looking forward to your comments. So for now, this is Phil, Shady Acres Woodshop, signing off.